So good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. So I'll be tackling about light and the camera in chapter 3. So the objective of this topic is to explain the importance of light in photography. So enumerate the types, components, and essential parts of camera. Explain the functions of the lens and identify standards and special camera lenses and zooms. Identify, explain the functions and different camera accessories. Enumerate the equipment and accessories including a crime scene photography kit. And lastly, explain the proper way of handling a camera. So for the police photographer to take consistently successful photographs, he must understand the basic optical principles underlying how camera works, the type of lens and the lighting equipment to utilize the film speed or digital setting to use the particular situation, as well as the advantages and the drawbacks of different camera formats by becoming familiar with the controls and camera. The photographer will be more able to concentrate on the composition and lighting each photograph. So light. Light is a very essence and the basic substance of photography. It is important to understand how light behaves and how lenses form into images in order to gain a broader view of possibilities of photography. We tend to take light for granted even when it is light that enables us to view the world through our eyes. So light is what enables our eyes to see, just as sounds enables our ears to hear, and flavor enables our tongue to taste. In Langford Basic Photography, visible light is defined as a stream of energy radiating away from the sun or similar radiant source with four important characteristics. So number one, light behaves as if it is moved in waves, like ripples crossing the surface of water. Variations in wavelengths gives our eye sensation in different colors. Number two, light travels in straight line within a uniform substance or medium. This can be seen in light beams and shafts and sunlight and the way that shadows fall. So number three, light moves at great speed, approximately 3,000 kilometers or 186,000 per second, to vacuum of space. It moves less fast in air and slightly slower still in denser substance such as water glass. So number four, light also behaves as if it is consists of energy particles of photons. This bleach dyes cause chemical changes in films and electronic response in digital camera sensors. The more intense the light, the more photons it contains. So John Hedko in 2005 explained the path of light in photography by starting with the subject and light source. Light rays reflected from the subject of the photo are transmitted through the glass lens of the front of camera to form a latent image on the film. A lens consists of a convex disc or ground and the polished glass that reflects the widening light rays traveling away from every point of the subject. Light is prevented from reaching the film by shutter until your chosen moment of exposure. The point at which the lens focuses these rays, the focal plane, coincides with the position of the film when the lens is correctly focused. The focal plane is where the rays of light refracted by the lens converge to form a sharp, upside-down form or image. Light traveling from different distance from the camera needs varying degrees of refraction to focus the focal plane. So a focusing mechanism moves the lens toward or away from the position of the film and focal plane coincides with the lens correctly focused. So the example of this is this picture. So this is a figure 3.1 path of light. So this is, if you can see, no? So the problem of this is it cannot focus. So the amount of exposure to light is most often controlled by a combination of the time the shutter in open, the shutter speed, and the diameter of the light beam passing through the lens, the aperture. The shutter speed and the aperture are controls that influence the visual result. Shutter time alters the way movement is recorded, blurred or frozen, while lens aperture alters the depth of subject that is shown and focus at one time. So it's just a depth of field. These controls will be explained further in the chapter. So the two main sources of light, so first is natural light. This refers to the daylight coming from the sun, which is generally utilized for outdoor photography, or light that comes to the existence without the intervention of man. Light produced by the sun, including direct sunlight, the soft light in the shadow, light that bounces off a reflective surface, moonlight reflected from the sun, and starlight are all sources of natural light. Daylight photography depends as much on the quality of the daylight as its strength. The quality of daylight is combination of contrast and color, temperature, or color of the day. Natural light can be classified according to its intensity. So bright light, a lighting condition wherein objected in open space casts a deep uniform shadow. So in bright light, the subject will produce strong shadow because the source of light is not recovered by clouds. So in black and white photography, the object of subject looks contrastly. So it's called contrastly. So hazy light, a lighting condition wherein the objects in open space cast transmitted shadows. In hazy sunlight, the sun is covered by the clouds and shadow appears bluish because of the decrease of the light falling on the subject in open space. The shadow cast is transparent to the eye, and more details are visible under the lighting condition than in bright sunlight. When the sunlight is obscured by light clouds, the intensity of direct light is falling on subject's end. In open space is decreased. In effect, the light coming from the sky becomes stronger, then the shadows appear more bluish than in bright sunlight. And also the dull light, a lighting condition wherein the object in open space casts no shadow. In dull sunlight, the sun is totally covered by thick clouds. No shadows are formed due to the uniform illumination of light around the subjects in open space. So artificial light. This refers to the man-made source of light used to utilize for indoor photography to align the adverse lighting condition. It is also unutilized to align the hazy or dull light in outdoor photography. This includes all non-natural sources such as conditioned light from incandescent and fluorescent light bulbs, electronic flashes, and studio strobes. The source of the source of artificial light. So there's continuous duration. Uh, these are fluorescent lamps, incandescent lamps, or tungsten light, photoflood lamps, infrared lamp, ultraviolet lamp. So in the short duration naman, flash bulbs or chemical flash lamp, flash cubes, flash bar, X cube, electronic flash. So the type of electronic flash is strobe cube, a slave unit or slave flash, right light, accessories flash unit. So the types of accessories flash units is manual flash. Excuse me. These flash units require you to figure out the correct exposure for shooting conditions. Automatic flash. These flash units use automatic sensors to control light output and duration based on the distance from the camera to the subject. When you set the aperture you want to use, the flash will automatically calculate how much light is needed and illuminate a specific distance range, such as 3 to 15 feet. The flash unit will have electric eye that reads the amount of light bouncing back to the subject. So dedicated light unit. They are made to work with your camera in specific electronic means, hence the name. They will do all the thinking for the photographer, automatically setting the correct shutter speed and aperture, and controlling the exposure by regulating flash duration. So number 4, built-in flash unit. So a flash unit built into a camera. Yung nasa camera na. Naka-built-in na sa camera. Yung tinatawag na built-in flash unit. Of off-camera flash. A flash unit not mounted on the camera. So flash synchronization speed is a shutter speed that can be used when working with a flash unit. Obtain evenly lit result. So the camera. By definition, a camera is photographic apparatus used to expose sensitized film or plates to reflected light images formed by a lens. It can also be considered as a light-tight box with a means of forming the image, holding sensitized materials and controlling the amount of light that will reach the film. So the example of camera, so you can see this is the camera. So a camera usually has electronic refinements and automatic features, but underneath it all that is a basic design that includes a light-proof container with a hole at one end over which a lens is placed and holder opposite to accommodate either a trap of light sensitive film or a light sensitive electronic chip to produce a correctly exposed image in a variety of light intensities. The camera lens has an iris diaphragm that can be adjusted to leave a hole of varying diameter. This is called the aperture. On a fixed lens compact camera, the lens also contains a shutter mechanism known as between the lens shutter, which open to allow light to reach the film. The shutter allows you to choose the precise moment of exposure, and by selecting from range of shutter speed, you can also control the length of exposure the shutter mechanism on single lens reflex. or SLR. Camera is located inside the body, behind the lens, just in front of the film or digital sensor, and it's known as a focal plane shutter. So the camera types: SLR, a single lens reflex. Cameras are the most popular type for serious photography. They could be either digital or used for 35mm film, and SLR camera's unique features lies in the design of its viewfinder. Viewfinder system, in which a system of mirrors shows the user the image precisely as the lens renders it. Thus, no matter what focal length lens is attached to the camera, the scene the photographer sees through the viewfinder corresponds exactly to that scene by the lens. The compact or point and shoot cameras can be either digital or film cameras and are light and easy to use. This non-SLR camera does not support interchangeable lenses, and the view seen through the viewfinder is not exactly the same as the seen through the lens. The problem can result in framing errors and not seeing whether the image is correctly focused. They are called point and shoot because they have controls that are either very simplified or very automatic, or both. Such cameras are meant to be used to record snapshots without having to learn how to use camera. So the compact or point and about camera. So medium format camera used to wide rolls or film between 35mm and 4 by 5 inches. 4 by 5 inches format. For better image definition, because of the large negative size, the image resolution is higher with medium format than 35mm cameras. These cameras tend to be more expensive and lenses tend to be large. Essential components of camera. First, a means to accurately aim the camera and compose the picture. Number 2, an ability to focus precisely. Number 3, a shutter to control the moment of exposure and how long light acts in the sensitive surface. Number 4, an aperture to control image brightness and depth of field. Number 5, method of loading and removing film without allowing unwanted light to affect it. Number 6, a method to measure the light and indicate or set the exposure needed for each shot. Essential part of camera. Light tight box or body. Part of the camera that is very important because of its capability to exclude or unwanted light that might expose the film. Number 2, lens. A glass, plastic, or crystal optical element molded into a curved shape that can bend and focus rays of light, responsible for focusing the rays of light coming from the subject. So ito yung nagfo-focus or bibigay proper shot sa usa ka subject, no? Muna ang lens. So film holder holds the film firmly inside the camera. Shutter, device used to control the amount of time during which light is allowed to enter the camera and register on the film or image sensor. Serve as the barrier of the rays of light that will enter the effect and film inside the camera. Setting shutter at a certain speed enables the camera to determine the length of time the film is exposed. Moving the shutter speed dial to next stop either doubles or halves exposure time. So ang shutter speed, there is a B 1, 2, 4, 8, 15, 30, 60, 125, 250, 500, 1000 up to 2000. So number 1 stands for whole seconds, and the other are fraction of second. The shutter speed of 125 is capable of stopping the movement of subject. The shutter speed of 60 up to 125 and above is advisable to use when hand holding the camera with 50mm lens, but if your lens is 300mm, use 500 seconds or higher. So, viewfinder, an optical or electrical device used to compose and frame a scene, shows the entire scene coverage that can be recorded in the film inside the camera. Also called a view system, a finder or viewing screen. So take note, compact or point or shoot camera have the direct vision viewfinders that do not show exactly the same image that the lens sees. So in SLR cameras, light is reflected by a mirror and a pentaprism or pentaprism to the viewfinder. Digital cameras usually have an LCD monitor to show the image being projected into sensor. So, film advancer and lever mechanism for moving film from one spool to another incrementally, one frame at a time. So, shutter speed. It will control the duration between the opening and closing of the shutter. Lens aperture, an opening diaphragm and a light blocking plate that allows light to strike the film or image sensor. The ratio between the diameter and focal length of the lens, the light gathering power and lens. So the diameter of the lens diaphragm can be changed by turning the aperture ring. This dictates the brightness of the image reaching the film. Moving to the next, F number either halves or double aperture size. Aperture size also affects depth of field. The higher the number, the smaller the lens opening. The smaller the lens opening, the greater the depth of field. So, also the focusing mechanism. The sharpness of clearness of the objects being photographed will depend upon the focusing system of the camera. The focus is physical point at which rays of light from lens converge to form a properly defined image and subject. So, focusing control. Split image. So, out of focus and a sharp focus. So there's two, no? Out of focus and sharp focus. So the example of the out focus is this, no? And the sharp focus, also this is the example. And microprism ground screen. So this is the example, also the SLR camera, parts of SLR camera. So there's a viewfinder window, the sensors, ring of attaching strap, filming chamber for 35mm set, fold away film, rewind crank, rubber eye crop, viewfinder window. So 35mm SLR back view. This view shows the typical SLR with the high back removed to reveal the layout or light-proof film chamber, position, and focal length shutter. So this is the figure of 3.6 parts of SLR camera. So this is the front, no? This is 3.6 SLR. Camera lenses. As defined above, a lens is glass, plastic, or crystal optical element molded into curved shape. It can bend and focus rays of light. It is responsible for focusing the rays of light coming from the subject. Simple lenses feature a single convex or concave lens. Most photographic lenses feature multiple elements uh, housed in the single lens barrel that cancel out each element's weaknesses to produce a sharp image. The size of individual lens elements and their position determine the angle of view and focal length of lens. So this is the example of lens. So the distance scale of feet, distance scale, depth of field scale, aperture setting. No? So as you can see, this is the camera lens. So standard camera lens. Standard camera lens can be divided into following broad groups. Number one is standard normal lens. A standard lens or normal lens has focal length that is roughly equivalent to the diagonal of light sensitive image recording area within a camera. They usually have wide maximum apertures, making them useful in low light situation. So wide angle lens. A wide angle lens has focal length shorter than the diagonal of the film frame or image sensor. It is provide a broader angle for view than standard lens, and it is therefore ideal for photographing a group of people or when working in confined space. However, distortion may be a problem if the lens is used too close to a subject. A wide-angle lens is also sometimes called a short lens. These lenses can be rectilinear or straight lines are preserved or fisheye, showing extreme barrier distortion. Long focus lens. A long focus lens has focal length that it is much greater than the diagonal of the film or image format with which it is used. Longer focal lengths are useful for taking large image of distant subjects or when unable to move close enough to the subject and use a shorter lens. Zoom lens. So a zoom lens has a variable focal length. It allows the fine tuning of subject framing by adjusting the local length of lens. The special camera lenses and zooms. The following are special lenses and zooms designed for the 3 or 35mm format. So these are mirror lens. A mirror lens uses a combination of glass elements and mirrors that bounce the light up and down lens barrier, manipulating the light rays to allow a long focal length to be contained within a light rays to allow focal length and contained with a physical short space. The compact design reduces the bulk and weight associated with extreme long focus. Ultra-wide angle lens. Linearly corrected ultra-wide angle lenses have a focal length ranging from around 21mm down to around 15mm. And example is the fisheye lens, which has very wide angle lens that produces distorted view of the world. Wide angle zoom. A wide angle zoom is likely to be slower and heavier and to show more image distortion than a wide angle fixed focal length lens. However, it has the advantage of being able to select intermediate focal length settings. So also shift lens. A shift lens is also sometimes called a perspective control lens. It can be shifted of center isolation to a film frame so that the correct perspective can be achieved when photographing converging vertical lines, such as tall buildings. Macro lens. Macro lenses are designed to render a subject with 1.1 or higher magnification for very close focusing distance. They're useful in taking close-ups for small subjects or isolating details of larger subjects because they allow the camera to focus extremely close to a subject to record a detailed image. Telephoto lens. A telephoto lens has the focal length longer than the diagonal of the film frame or image sensor. Telephoto lenses make a subject appear larger on film than a normal lens at the same camera to subject distance. They also have a shallower depth or field than wide-angle lenses. They are usually used by sports photographers who frequently use a monopod for support and maneuverability. Telephoto zoom. A telephoto zoom ranging from 75 to 300 mm encompasses about 6 fixed focal length lenses. This type of zoom is popular with sports and wildlife photographers. It is also useful for portraits and can be used to photograph architectural and landscape details. So, clarification of lenses. So, there are two clarification lenses. The positive lens, a convex lens characterized by the fact that it is thicker in the needle than the edge, and form a real image on the opposite side of the lens, and has positive focal length and bends the rays together, which makes a converging lens. Number 2, negative lens. A concave lens characterized by the fact that it is thinner in the middle than the edge and form a vertical image on the same side of the lens. It does not require focusing at all, as everything will be sharp, upright, and clear no matter how close or far away the object. It is also known as a diverging lens because of its power of diverse rays to light and passes through it. Inherent defects and aberration of lenses. So first, chromatic aberration. It is an inability of lens to focus all colors in the same plane. It is lens defect which has trouble bringing all the different wavelengths of visible light into focus at the same point on the film. This is most difficult lens aberration to correct. Second, spherical aberration. A lens defect wherein the photographic rays passing through the edges refract more sharply than those passing through the central part of the lens. Thus, they come to focus on the edges than the central rays. Astigmatism. The inability of lens to focus on both horizontal and vertical plane at the same time, or the inability of the lens to focus in both lines running in different directions. So fourth, distortion. Outer parts of the image produced by the lens will be magnified either less or more than the outer image. Distortion comes into two basic forms, which is the pincushion distortion and barrel distortion. In the pincushion distortion, there are straight lines near the edges of the frame, both toward the center of the frame. The curving is inward. So barrel distortion. In the barrel, there is a straight lines near the edges of the frame bow outward from the center. Fifth is coma. This is known as a lateral aberration. It is concerned with the rays entering the lens obliquely. It is lens defect that produces a blurred comet-like image. Curvature of field. The image formed by lens comes to a sharper focus on a curved surface than the flat surface. So chromatic difference of magnification. The ability of lens to produce image sizes of object different color. Types of lens according to their degree and corrections. So first, achromatic or apochromatic lens corrected for chromatic aberration. So second is aspera lens, lens corrected for spherical aberration. And third, anagmatism or anastigmatic lens, lens corrected for astigmatism. Fourth is process lens, lens corrected for astigmatism, but with a higher correction of two colors, so per-corrected lens to astigmatism. So it's fifth, rapid rectilinear lens, a lens corrected for distortion, and combinations of two achromatic lenses with almost the same focal length. So the camera accessories, the following are among the several camera accessories that can be utilized in the photographing subject. So the first is tripod. So what is tripod? So a tripod is a stand consisting of 3 legs and a mounting head for a camera used to support and stabilize the camera. So second is cable release. A cable release with button or plunger attached to a camera to prevent accidental movement and eliminate camera shake. And also flash unit, an artificial light source synchronized with the opening and closing of the shutter to emit a brief but very bright burst of illumination to a scene. Light meter, a device used in determining the intensity of light that strikes the subject and affects the film. Extension tube, a tube inserted between the lens and camera body to provide increased magnification for macro photography, used in photographing minute object. Filter, a piece of colored glass, gelatin plastic, or another material that attached to or over the camera or enlarged lens to selectively absorb or otherwise alter the light passing through it, used to enhance color or contrast, remove reflections, reduce haze, soften focus, or produce a variety of special effects. So there are 2 general types of photographic filters, namely the non-special effects filters, which are intended to manipulate the way film reacts to subject colors, and the special effects filters, which are intended to give special effect to pictures. Example of special effects filter include multi-image filter, speed filter, and double exposure filter. So filters can also be classified into five, namely. So first is contrast filter. So adjust the tonal difference of an image. So second is correction filter. Colored filter used in black and white image capture to ensure that the tones are reproduced with the same relative brightness and perceived by the human eye. Haze filter, used to filter out ultraviolet radiation, which can cause a bluish fog and loss of detail in distant object. Also used to protect front lens element from dust, moisture, and scratches. Sky filter, a graduated filter designed to darken the sky while leaving the foreground exposure and altered. Polarizing filter, gray filter used over light sources or camera lenses to reduce specular reflections on certain surface. Also increases saturation of colors, especially in landscape. So primary color filters allow only that particular primary color to pass through, that is red allows red to pass through, blue allows blue, and green allows green. Complementary color filter work in this same way. Yellow is mixture of red and green, so yellow filter allows only those 2 colors to pass through, and so on. Color combination of photographic filters. A. Yellow and magenta. So red equals red. So B, cyan and magenta equals blue. So C, cyan and yellow equals green. D, red and green equals yellow. So E, blue and red equals magenta. And lastly, F, blue and green equals cyan. So camera grip. A device used to hold the camera firmly as to prevent vibration of movement. Lens hood. A plastic, metal, or rubber device that attaches to the front of the lens, shield it from extraneous light and eliminate reflection that might destroy the image cast by object, especially when the light is coming from the top of side portions of the camera. Also offers added physical protection against accidental blow, also called sun shade or lens shade. So these are the equipment that the photographer use. So the tripod, the cable release, flash unit, light meter, extension tube, the filter, camera grip, and lens hood. So the basic crime scene and evidence photography kit. And the crime scene and evidence photographer guide by Robert C. Staggs in 2005 recommends the following equipment and accessories to be used by forensic photographer. So number 1 is camera. So the second is the normal lens of a 50mm lens is considered a normal lens for a 35mm camera. So third, wide angle lens 28mm or similar for a 35mm camera. And number 4, close-up lenses or accessories. So 1.1 adapter, extension tube, bellows, reversing ring or close-up filters. So number 5, filters with color red, orange, yellow, and blue and green. So 6, electronic flash, and a remote sync cord for electronic flash to operate flash when not mounted on camera. 8, extra camera and flash batteries. 9, locking cable release. 10, tripod. 11, film, the color and black and white print film. 12, owner's manuals for camera and flash. 13, notebook and pen. 14, scales. 15, ABFO, second to scale injury photography. 16, gray card to aid getting accurate exposure. 17, index card and field pen. 18, flashlight. Other equipment that should be considered: telephoto lenses, 135mm, telephoto zoom lens of surveillance photography. Second, supplementary light meter for low light level readings. Third, small tools and emergency camera repairs. And 4, blocks of wood, clothespins, and other devices positioning evidence for close-up photography. 5th, white handkerchief or other flash diffusion material. So 6, levels. 7, tape measure. 8, color chart or color control patches for injury photography. So proper handling of a camera. So the camera motion can be caused by lack of sharpness. There are 2 prime causes of camera motion. So the first is vibration, usually caused by the body movement, including the beating of the heart. So second is actual camera movement caused by the improper holding of the camera. So how to hold a camera? Camera motion can result on blurry images. To prevent this, It is important to hold the camera properly by considering the following. So number 1, hold the camera with the right hand. Place the index finger under the shutter release. The thumb should be under film advanced lever and remaining 3 fingers against the front of the camera. Second, the heel of the camera must lie on the palm of the left hand. So the third, the photographer arm should be resting against the body with the legs far enough apart to be a steady base. When taking a photograph in a kneeling position, do not rest the elbow on the knees, as the bone-to-bone contact is unsteady and will be reflected in the photograph. So the placement of the rest of the body while taking photograph as important as holding the camera. So these are the position on how hold a camera. Though these are the examples. So vertical position, so horizontal position, standing position, kneeling position, and prone position. So the last topic is the care and handling of the camera and film. So the photographer should take care of the camera between uses by keeping it out of direct sunlight and away from the sources. The camera should never be exposed to direct sunlight or to heat inside globe compartments or trunks of vehicle during the hot weather. The photographer should also keep the film in insulated chest or wrapped in white reflective cloth. Exposed film should be maintained in a refrigerator or processed immediately. In cold weather, the camera should be protected by keeping it under your jacket, as the film may become brittle and tear or break. Salt water may also damage the camera and film, so make sure the camera is fully protected, and a negative should be placed in the plastic sleeve to avoid scratches. So thank you everyone.